Welcome back to Liberty Coins Value, where we dive into the most unbelievable treasures hiding in everyday pocket change, and today we're taking you deep into one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatics, a story centered on the unassuming yet astonishingly valuable 1971 1-cent coin, a penny that some collectors place at a jaw-dropping theoretical value of over $443 million because of the extraordinary combination of minting mistakes, production anomalies, material inconsistencies, die deterioration, possible experimental compositions, and the almost mythic rarity attached to certain error classes that could only have happened during that turbulent period in the early 1970s, a time when the U.S. Mint was dealing with technological shifts, changes in demand, die life experiments, planchet shortages, metal inconsistencies, and rapid production schedules that pushed mint machinery to its limits and created conditions where unusual errors could occur. And as we explore this story together, imagine holding a coin that looks so ordinary yet hides a world of possibilities, each layer of its creation adding to its mystique, each potential flaw magnifying its value, each strange quirk transforming an everyday penny into a numismatic titan whose extraordinary projected worth is fueled not only by known errors but also by reported anomalies, theoretical variations, and the intense fascination of collectors who search tirelessly for that one elusive specimen that combines everything from double die obverse impressions to defective planchets, shifted design elements, wrong metal signatures, improperly annealed surfaces, off-center strikes, die cap formations, brockages, clipped planchets, struck-through debris errors, ghost impressions, transitional mix-ups, and the possibility of a virtually unique experimental strike that could tie directly into a hidden chapter of mint history, and the moment you begin to unravel the details behind the 1971 cent, you step into a world where each microscopic detail matters, where the exact angle of a doubled letter, the depth of a misaligned strike, the sheen created by improper heating, the unusual tone created by alloy inconsistency, or the thickness of the rim could make all the difference between a standard 1-cent coin and a once-in-a-generation anomaly that excites experts, inspires treasure hunters, and drives collectors around the world to pay astronomical figures for a chance to own what might be the single most intriguing mistake-born relic of the early copper coinage era. And as we break down why some believe the 1971 cent could reach the colossal $443 million mark, we start with one of the most important categories of errors, the double die issues that plagued various years of Lincoln cents. And while 1971 is not as famous for dramatic doubling as years like 1955, 1969, or 1972, certain rare specimens have been reported to show extremely subtle yet detectable doubling on Liberty, the motto, or even Lincoln's profile. And in the world of high-stakes numismatics, subtlety often means rarity, and rarity means exponential value, because a slight shift in the die during hubbing or repeated misalignment during a rushed production run creates anomalies that might exist in only a handful of surviving coins, and in the numismatic universe, even a single example of an extreme double die obverse in pristine condition could create a sensation, and if authenticated, could skyrocket its price to unimaginable heights as collectors compete for a piece of minting history that bridges human error, mechanical stress, and pure chance. And beyond doubling, serious collectors whisper about unusual planchet errors in 1971 that have fueled speculation of dramatic price potential, with theories suggesting that some pennies may have been mistakenly struck on leftover experimental copper-nickel planchets or even blank planchets intended for foreign contract coins produced by the U.S. Mint that year. And because foreign coin production often occurred alongside domestic coinage, mix-ups were not impossible, and in extremely rare cases this leads to a U.S. denomination struck on the wrong metal, a mistake so monumental that it immediately elevates a coin from common to once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And when you combine the idea of a 1971 penny struck on an off-metal planchet with the possibility of die errors layered over it, suddenly you're dealing with a coin collectors would chase with limitless enthusiasm, pushing prices higher and higher, fueled by rarity, historical significance, and market demand. And another reason the 1971 cent era fascinates collectors is the inconsistent annealing process reported in certain mint facility operations during the early 70s, where planchets sometimes came out overheated or underheated, creating improper alloy bonding and making coins appear with unusual surface grain, color variations, strange streaks, weak strikes or brittle texture. And while these may seem minor cosmetic issues, in the world of error coin collecting these metallurgic anomalies can point to a specific malfunction in the production line that may have affected only a microscopic portion of overall output, turning a flawed process into a potential gold mine because collectors seek out the unique, the unrepeatable, and the visually distinctive. And when you add the allure of an unexplained alloy Error or rare experimental surface finish to the established fame of the Lincoln cent series, value surges dramatically, especially when a coin also displays other major errors like misstrikes, broad strikes, or design distortions caused by collapsing dies or press malfunction. And that's not all, because adding further fuel to the speculation around the potential multi-million-dollar 1971 cent is the possibility that some coins might exhibit multi-strike errors where the coin was struck more than once, either intentionally due to a jam or unintentionally due to improper ejection, producing overlapping design layers, ghost images, or distorted lettering that makes each affected piece visually extraordinary. And multi-strike errors often rank among the most desirable in the numismatic world because they produce spectacular results that tell a clear story of mechanical misalignment and dramatic malfunction. And when collectors see multiple overstrikes on an early 70 cent, they immediately recognize its rarity, and rarity drives bidding wars, and bidding wars drive record-shattering values, especially when the coin in question is already tied to a series known for copper variations and strong collector interest. And as if this weren't enough, the 1971 cent is also associated with rumors of transitional errors where extremely few coins may have been accidentally produced using the wrong dies or mixed toolings, where an obverse meant for one stage of hub design collided with a reverse of a different stage, or where a leftover die from another year was mistakenly used before being replaced. And transitional errors notoriously command staggering premiums because they represent pure minting impossibility and historical anomaly rolled into one. And if even one verifiable example emerged displaying an unmistakable transitional attribute unique to 1971, it could instantly enter the uppermost tier of the numismatic hierarchy, joining the elite category of coins worth hundreds of millions in theory due to their perfect blend of uniqueness, historical significance, and collector obsession. And as collectors analyze these mysteries, they also consider the likelihood of extreme off-center strikes from the year, where the coin may have been struck with half or more of the design missing or shifted, leaving a crescent of blank planchet alongside a beautifully preserved partial impression. And the most valuable off-center errors are those that show the full date and mint mark intact despite dramatic misalignment, because the date provides authentication while the off-center appearance provides rarity. And if a 1971 cent exists showing ultra-dramatic off-center strike with perfect date clarity, especially when combined with other minting anomalies, its theoretical value could soar into astronomical territory for collectors who specialize in major misstrikes. And intertwined with all of these possibilities is the story of die deterioration. During that era, where heavily worn dies produced coins with mushy edges, distorted lettering, fading details, or elongated metal flow lines that indicate the die was in its final stage of use, and coins produced at the end of a die's lifespan can sometimes take on bizarre forms, with stretched fields, cracked surfaces, and cuts where chunks of die metal break away, creating raised blobs on the finished coin. And certain dramatic die cracks from this period are highly prized, especially when they run across the portrait, through the date, or across fields in ways that make the coin appear dramatically scarred. And collectors cherish these because they visually narrate the coin's birth under stress and dying machinery. And a massive die crack combined with another major error could theoretically elevate the 1971 cent to record-breaking worth. And when considering how a coin could reach $443 million in theoretical collector value, we also must acknowledge the power of mythology and narrative in numismatics, because sometimes the story behind a coin magnifies its attractiveness more than the coin itself. And the 1971 cent sits at a crossroads of speculation, historical transitions, minting challenges, copper debates, political shifts in material choice, technological evolution in mint machinery, and the rise of error collecting as a mainstream passion. And when you add all these factors together, you get a coin that is more than metal, more than design. Next. 1978 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would walk right past on the sidewalk without a second thought. Yet one particular example has been rumored in collector circles to command a staggering value of $67 million, not because it's made of gold or silver or precious material but because of a series of extraordinary errors, strange minting quirks, production anomalies, and nearly impossible to replicate mistakes that all came together to create one of the most intriguing, mysterious and potentially high-value cents known to passionate collectors. So settle in as we unfold the long and detailed story of how a simple penny from 1978 could be worth life-changing money, how these rare minting mishaps happen, what errors experts believe are responsible for this extraordinary valuation, and why a coin worth only 1 cent on paper could become a multimillion-dollar treasure depending on the exact combination of its flaws and the circumstances of its creation. And as we Explore this in depth. We'll also talk about the possibilities, theories, misconceptions, the speculation from the numismatic community, and the always important factor of rarity that influences market demand, because the 1978 1-cent coin sits right at the intersection of historical mystery, minting technology transition, quality control inconsistencies, and collector obsession, all contributing to a story so captivating that it has kept collectors discussing, debating, and hunting for decades. And to really understand the hype behind this rumored $67 million penny, we need to begin by looking at the year itself, because 1978 sits in a very interesting window of United States mint operations, a time when the mint had largely adjusted to the copper composition used in Lincoln cents but was also dealing with aging equipment, variations in die preparation, differences in planchet quality, and a workforce that had to push out enormous volumes under tight deadlines. And as every coin collector knows, whenever massive production and aging machinery intersect with tight schedules, you inevitably get mistakes, and while most mistakes are common, minor, or practically worthless, every once in a while a perfect storm of errors occurs, creating something so unusual that it becomes almost myth-like. And that is what collectors believe happened with the legendary 1978 1-cent that has become the subject of endless fascination, because while the minting process is designed to produce identical coins in the millions, perfection is never guaranteed, and the slightest disruption during any stage, from planchet cutting to annealing to striking to die creation, can result in a coin with a mistake that ranges from almost invisible to shockingly dramatic. And when you combine multiple types of errors on a single coin, the rarity multiplies exponentially. And rarity is the lifeblood of collectability, so the question becomes, what kind of errors could possibly exist on a 1978 penny that would push its speculative value into the tens of millions? And based on collector reports, auction whispers, and detailed numismatic analysis, there are several categories of errors believed to be involved, starting with one of the most dramatic possibilities, which is a double or even triple strike error, a minting malfunction where the coin is struck more than once but misaligned during subsequent strikes, producing overlapping images, ghostly outlines, distorted lettering, and doubled dates. And while double strikes are not extremely rare, a perfectly dramatic double strike combined with other errors could raise the value dramatically, and when combined with misalignment, meaning the planchet shifts or rotates slightly between strikes, it can create a coin unlike anything else from that year. And experts believe this rumored legend combines precisely that sort of dramatic misalignment, where Lincoln's portrait appears shifted noticeably and the date shows signs of extra impressions that shouldn't exist under normal conditions. So that's just one piece of the puzzle. But another error that has been heavily speculated is a transitional planchet mistake, a scenario where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal blank, possibly a leftover from a previous or experimental run. And while 1978 pennies were supposed to be made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, the mint had been experimenting at different times with alternative metal compositions for various purposes, including reducing production costs. And although there's no widely documented official alternative metal planchet for 1978, it's not impossible for a stray blank of a different composition, such as a foreign coin blank, a test strike blank, or a leftover planchet from production trials, to make its way into the hoppers and accidentally get struck with a Lincoln design. And if this 1-cent coin were struck on the wrong planchet entirely, its weight, color, and sound would differ from normal cents, instantly boosting its value into astronomical territory. But what would make it climb into the tens of millions is the combination of rarity of such a mistake with the presence of other dramatic errors. And so we move to another theorized condition, which is a die variety or die deterioration error that left unusual markings, cracks, or chips on the coin, making certain design elements thicker, thinner, distorted, or even partially missing. And die cracks especially can create raised lines running across the coin like tiny lightning bolts, and die chips can create blobs or raised bumps in places where the die was damaged. And while these alone usually create modest value increases, when combined with major striking errors, misalignment issues, and planchet anomalies, the synergy of errors becomes so rare that it's nearly impossible to replicate, making the coin essentially a one-of-a-kind piece. And as if that weren't enough, collectors also speculate that the coin may exhibit a broad strike error, meaning it was struck without the retaining collar in place and therefore expanded outward, giving it a wider than normal diameter and sometimes even a slightly warped or stretched appearance. And again, broad strikes alone are not incredibly rare, but a broad strike on a wrong planchet with dramatic double strikes and misalignment would be unprecedented, turning a simple cent into a multi-million-dollar anomaly. But the story doesn't end there, because some reports mention the possibility of an off-center strike significant enough to shift the main design elements noticeably, perhaps even leaving part of the design off the coin entirely. and severe off-center strikes of 60% or more can create extremely valuable coins when the date remains visible, because the date is essential to verifying the coin's rarity. And if a 1978 penny exhibited such an extreme off-center strike while retaining its date, it would be one of the most dramatic mint errors imaginable, and stacking that on top of everything else would push its valuation into the realm of the extraordinary. But what truly drives the rumored value of 67 million is not just the individual errors but the combination thereof, and the numismatic world has always placed the highest premiums on coins that have multiple, stacked minting mistakes, each rare on its own but almost impossibly rare when found together, and when you consider that billions of pennies were minted, the statistical likelihood of all these errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin is so minuscule that many experts believe only one such coin could exist, making it the ultimate prize for collectors. And as we dive deeper into the kinds of anomalies associated with this legendary cent, we also have to consider production inconsistencies of that era, because the late 1970s was a period when dies were reused extensively, sometimes even beyond their ideal lifespan, and worn dies could produce soft strikes, missing details, distorted features, and irregular reliefs, and if this cent were struck near the end of a die's functional life, it might contain very faint details in certain areas and unusually bold details in others, and when you combine a deteriorated die with a double strike or a misaligned strike, the resulting coin could have ghosting effects, shadows behind letters, stretched or elongated features, and an overall appearance that makes it instantly distinguishable from typical cents of the year. And some collectors have theorized the possibility of a mule error as well, which is when two dies that were never meant to be paired end up being used together, creating a coin with mismatched obverse and reverse designs. And while mule errors are almost always noticed quickly, it is not impossible for a single example to escape detection. And if this coin were a mule on top of everything else, its value would soar into an entirely new category. And that brings us to the question of why the rumored value is so dramatically high. Because beyond errors, the second major factor influencing extreme coin values is provenance, meaning the story behind the coin, its path through history and its origins. And some coins gain legendary status because they were owned by influential collectors, hidden for decades, or found under mysterious circumstances. Next. 1967 1-cent coin that collectors claim has reached an eye-watering value of $41 million because of its mysterious errors, unusual production quirks, and the fascinating possibilities that continue to spark debates among numismatists around the world. So settle in as we take you through every twist and turn of how a simple penny minted during a turbulent era of American coinage has become the center of incredible interest, speculation, and excitement, turning what should be just another Lincoln cent into a coin that defies expectations and captivates treasure hunters everywhere who dream of discovering one of these ultra-rare and extraordinary pieces in a forgotten jar, an old drawer, or even in a box of inherited belongings, because the story begins in a year where many dramatic changes were happening behind the scenes at the United States Mint, with 1967 coming right in the middle of the coin shortage crisis that forced the mint to remove mint marks entirely, simplify production methods, and push out billions of coins using high-pressure equipment and overworked dies, creating an environment where errors were more likely to slip through unnoticed and where stress on the minting machinery often produced strange and extreme mistakes, setting the stage for incredibly rare specimens to exist. And one such penny from 1967 has become legendary due to rumors and verified examples showing combinations of double strikes, off-center impressions, broad strikes, die cracks, and even extraordinary transitional elements that should not have appeared on a coin from that year, all of which contribute to why collectors attach such enormous theoretical values to certain ultra-rare specimens, because when a single coin carries a mix of dramatic imperfections that make it unique, and when the historical context adds mystery to how these mistakes occurred, the result is a coin that collectors value not for its metal but for its story, rarity, and the impossibility of finding another one exactly like it. And that's where the 1967 pennies legend truly begins, as tales circulate in the hobby of a particular specimen that displays a double die obverse so dramatic that Lincoln's profile appears shadowed with thick doubling across the nose, chin, and jawline, while the date 1967 reportedly shows split lines and a ghost-like second impression. And this dramatic visual effect, when combined with rumors of additional layered mistakes on the same coin, has caused some numismatists to label it a once-in-a-lifetime strike that cannot be replicated, fueling the extraordinary $41 million value estimation among passionate collectors who believe this coin sits at the very edge of impossibility. And this is just the beginning of the enormous list of alleged and confirmed errors tied to rare 1967 pennies. Because many of the surviving era specimens known today show misaligned dies that created uneven rims, distorted lettering, and even partial collar skipping, making the edges appear irregular or unusually wide, a trait often associated with broad strikes, and these types of errors are considered valuable because they demonstrate a breakdown in the normally tight and precise minting process, meaning the coin slipped through without correction and survived despite the chaos of mass production. And then we have the possibility of transitional planchet errors, which are among the most prized mistakes in coin collecting. Because a transitional error occurs when a coin is struck on a metal blank intended for a different year or denomination, and although 1967 pennies were composed of copper alloy, the rumor that a few may have been mistakenly struck on leftover planchets with slightly off alloy compositions has created enormous interest, as certain collectors claim to have found examples with strange weight variations, unusual toning, or magnetic reactions that point to the possibility of a wrong planchet strike. A type of error that can catapult a coin's value into the millions due to extreme scarcity and historical significance, and when you combine this with the fact that 1967 had no mint marks on any denominations, making it harder to determine exactly where certain errors originated, the intrigue only grows deeper, with some theorists arguing that coins with the heaviest and most dramatic errors may have come from the Philadelphia Mint due to the enormous production stress handled there, while others believe that certain dies used in Denver or San Francisco might have been transferred or repurposed without standard tracking, adding layers of mystery and potential mixing of machinery that could create unusual hybrid features on some coins, raising even further questions about how certain impossible combinations of errors might have occurred, and this naturally leads to the rarest of the rare coins that show die adjustment strike characteristics, meaning they were part of test striking phases where pressure settings were being calibrated, leaving behind coins with weak details, incomplete impressions, or flattened portrait areas, and in 1967 when production speed was prioritized, it is entirely possible that a few adjustment strikes slipped into circulation, making any surviving specimens extremely valuable, especially those displaying multiple layers of error. And then we cannot overlook the phenomenon of die cracks and cuds, which were widespread during high-stress minting years, because clogged dies or fractures could result in raised bumps, lines, or missing sections of the design, turning a normally uniform penny into a distinctive and collectible piece with irregular shapes and fascinating mint-made signatures that make each flawed coin unique, and in the case of the legendary $41 million 1967 penny, some collectors believe the coin exhibits a massive cut on the reverse that swallows part of the Lincoln memorial while also showing retained interior die cracks, a combination so dramatic that collectors claim it borders on miraculous, and such intense minting breakdowns are incredibly valuable because they not only prove the chaotic conditions inside the mint during the coin shortage era but also create one-of-a-kind specimens that can never be reproduced, which is the heart of what makes these coins so desirable to advanced collectors who place value on extreme rarity and historical anomalies rather than metal content. And another important factor contributing to the high valuation is the survival rate, because even though billions of pennies were struck in 1967, nearly all circulated heavily, meaning virtually none were preserved in pristine or near-mint condition, making high-grade survivors extremely rare even without errors. So when you combine a dramatic mint error with unusually high grade, the value increases exponentially, and certain rumors suggest that the most valuable 1967 penny remained untouched in a private collection for decades, preserving its luster, its sharp details, and its dramatic minting flaws in a way that almost no other coin from that year can match, which further fuels the enormous price estimates surrounding it. And beyond the physical errors, there is also the psychological and historical appeal of the year 1967 itself, a year frequently overshadowed by the transitional chaos in mid-60s coin production where mint marks were removed, proof sets were replaced by special mint sets, and the mint struggled to balance demand with limited resources, a perfect storm for unusual minting outcomes and inconsistent quality control, making collectors fascinated with the idea that treasures could slip into circulation unnoticed, and this atmosphere of uncertainty and experimentation gives the 1967 penny an almost mythical aura, suggesting that anything is possible and that hidden gems might still exist waiting to be discovered by ordinary people checking their pocket change or old family collections. And this sense of mystery and hope is a huge part of what drives collectors, treasure hunters, and coin enthusiasts to chase these rare pieces, creating a marketplace where theoretical values skyrocket because the excitement of discovery fuels demand, and when a coin becomes the centerpiece of so many rumors, debates, theories, and discoveries, its value is no longer just about the metal or the rarity but about the story it carries, the imagination it inspires, and the extraordinary possibility that someone, someday, may uncover another example worth millions, and this is why the 1967 1-cent coin with extreme errors has become a legend, a coin that collectors talk about with wide eyes and excited voices, a coin that symbolizes the dream of finding fortune in the most unexpected place, a coin that turns everyday people into explorers searching through jars and boxes for that one impossible piece that defies the odds and changes everything. And so as we dive deeper into the possibilities of additional undiscovered errors from the same year, we see that collectors have identified potential triple die obverse varieties, uncentered broad strikes that expand the coin dramatically beyond its standard diameter, incorrect hub impressions that create distortions in Lincoln's bust, partial brockage strikes where another coin's design is faintly imprinted into the surface, and rotated reverse errors where the reverse side is misaligned by 45, 90, or 180 degrees compared to the obverse, each of which adds enormous collectability and potential value. Next. 1979 1-cent piece rumored to be worth an astonishing $58 million because of its extraordinary errors and remarkable minting anomalies that elevate it far beyond simple pocket change and place it among the most sought-after rarities ever whispered about in the world of numismatics, and as you join this exploration you become part of a community that thrives on curiosity, discovery, and the thrill of finding value where others might see nothing special, so settle in as we unravel the breathtaking mysteries that make the 1979 penny such a legendary figure in the world of collectible coins, starting with the way this coin's story begins not with its design or year but with the unexpected flaws, defects and minting irregularities that combine to create a specimen so rare that it moves from being a 1-cent copper-coated artifact of everyday American life into a financial treasure chest that collectors dream of acquiring, and to understand why this coin holds such a staggering rumored price tag we must immerse ourselves into a detailed observation of the minting process of the late 1970s when machinery, dies, and presses were beginning to experience modern improvements but still carried mechanical vulnerabilities that created opportunities for unintentional masterpieces to slip through the cracks, such as off-center strikes where the blank planchet is not properly aligned under the die resulting in partial impressions that distort the visuals of Lincoln's profile and the surrounding design elements, and in some rare 1979 pennies these off-center strikes are so severe and so visually dramatic that collectors value them immensely because they not only represent a clear minting flaw but also display an almost artistic appearance that turns a technical mistake into a desirable collectible. Yet the off-center strike is only the beginning of the multi-layered story of why this particular penny has reached legendary heights, as another critical error category includes double dies which occur when the hub imprints its design onto the die multiple times with slight misalignments creating doubling effects on letters, numbers, and occasionally on Lincoln's portrait, and in the case of rare 1979 era pennies the doubling is so clear on the date, on the word liberty and on the motto that it amplifies the desirability and rarity of the coin, and when these doubling features are combined with additional anomalies such as die cracks that run like lightning streaks across the surface of the coin or die chips that leave raised bumps in unexpected places the coin transforms from a simple denomination into a multi-error showcase specimen that collectors treat like a treasure map etched in metal, and because die deterioration was somewhat common during high-volume production years the 1979 penny saw its share of worn dies which produced numerous odd markings, uneven strikes and misaligned features that, while common in low-grade examples, become profoundly valuable when preserved in near-perfect condition because they reveal the exact moment in the die's life when an error was produced, making the error both historically fascinating and financially significant. But what pushes this legendary $58 million claim into numismatic folklore is the possibility that an extremely rare composition error may exist for the 1979 penny, an error that would overshadow all others because composition mistakes are among the rarest in United States minting history, especially when a coin is accidentally struck on a wrong planchet such as leftover materials intended for foreign coinage or different denominations, and collectors speculate about the existence of a 1979 penny struck on a bronze alloy that differs slightly from the intended composition or on a transitional planchet left over from earlier modifications. And in extraordinary cases coins have been found from other years struck on dime planchets or on experimental metals, making the idea of a 1979 transitional planchet error entirely possible and deeply exciting for collectors, fueling rumors of astronomical value. And beyond composition and striking errors, some of the most unusual possibilities include broad strikes where the retaining collar fails causing the coin to expand outward, clipped planchets where the blank metal piece has a crescent-shaped bite taken out of it due to feeder malfunction, and saddle strikes which occur when two dies strike the Same planchet at slightly different angles, creating unusual overlapping impressions that elevate the coin from rare to once-in-a-lifetime status. And when you imagine a coin containing a combination of a dramatic off-center strike, a strong double die, visible die cracks, and possibly even a wrong planchet composition, you begin to see how collectors and enthusiasts might reach the conclusion that such a coin could command sky-high valuations in the world of auctions where rarity drives bidding. Wars and emotional excitement fuels the willingness of wealthy collectors to pay exorbitant prices for a piece of numismatic history, because rarity does not merely depend on age or metal content but on the survival rate of coins that contain multiple significant minting mistakes preserved in high-grade condition with minimal wear, minimal scratches, and clear visual definition, allowing experts to authenticate and evaluate the coin at the highest possible level. And since the 1979 penny exists in enormous quantities due to its mass production, any error variant that stands out dramatically becomes extraordinarily more valuable simply due to the sheer contrast between the rarity of the mistake and the commonality of the standard coin, making the unique example stand like a lighthouse in a vast sea of ordinary coins and catching the attention of every experienced collector searching for the next great discovery. And whenever rumors circulate about a specific penny being worth tens of millions of dollars, the speculation often grows from a combination of verified auction results of other rare coins, exaggerated retellings by enthusiasts, and the natural excitement that accompanies the possibility of finding a life-changing treasure in everyday change. But whether or not the $58 million figure is realistic depends heavily on the condition, grade, rarity of the error combination, and overall historical significance of the specific coin being discussed. And while most error coins might bring hundreds or thousands of dollars, only the most extraordinary examples reach the highest tier of valuation, pushing into millions when the coin demonstrates unmatched uniqueness or historical relevance. And this layered complexity is what keeps the world of coins endlessly fascinating, because each coin tells a story through its marks, shapes, and flaws that serve like fingerprints of its journey from the mint to the hands of collectors who preserve it for future generations. And when we visualize this 1979 penny with its rumored $58 million value, we imagine a coin that embodies every desirable trait a collector dreams of, including extreme rarity, eye-catching errors, perfect preservation, strong visual appeal, and a story so compelling that experts, collectors, and historians would line up to debate its origins, authenticate its anomalies, and determine its rightful place among the most valuable coins ever discovered. And as we explore the possibilities behind the errors that might exist on this extraordinary penny, we must also consider that some rare coins owe their value not just to visible mistakes but also to the context of their production, such as coins struck during periods of transition at the mint when older equipment was being replaced or when new dies were being introduced, causing small windows of vulnerability for rare anomalies to be created unintentionally and then released into circulation, giving rise to legendary rarities that fascinate generations of collectors. And the 1979 penny fits perfectly into this narrative because it was produced in high quantities but with enough mechanical and procedural variables to produce exceptional mint errors that continue to capture attention decades later, inspiring hobbyists to search their own change in hope of discovering something extraordinary. And while the $58 million claim may remain speculative, the story behind the coin's potential errors, its fascinating possibilities, and the overwhelming excitement surrounding its discovery make it an iconic example of why coin collecting endures as a hobby that blends history, art, mystery, and financial curiosity into one captivating pursuit that continues to attract new generations of seekers eager to learn, explore, and dream about uncovering their own numismatic treasure just waiting to be found if they take the time to look closely enough. And as always in the world of rare coins, the true value lies not only in the price tag but in the excitement, wonder, and sense of adventure that each discovery brings to those who dare to imagine what might be hiding in plain sight within the smallest pieces of history that pass through our hands every day. Next, 1983 1-cent coin that has been rumored and celebrated for reaching an astonishing value of $21 million simply because of a unique blend of errors, mistakes, historical twists, and possibilities that turned an ordinary-looking penny into an object of fascination, wonder, and intense intrigue among numismatists, treasure hunters, and everyday people who suddenly find themselves wondering if they too might have a tiny piece of hidden fortune sitting unnoticed in a jar, drawer, or box at home. And as we explore the fascinating world surrounding this coin, we begin with a warm welcome to all viewers who are excited to learn more about how something as small as a single cent minted in 1983 could transform from a widely circulated everyday coin into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece thanks to production issues, minting anomalies, composition mysteries, and strike mistakes that collectively gave birth to the legend of the ultra-valuable 1983 cent that so many talk about today. And to Understand why this specific coin can command such an unbelievable price. We must go back in time to the United States Mint's unique and transitional period during the early 1980s, when a major shift took place in the composition of circulating pennies as the government moved from traditional copper-based cents to copper-plated zinc cents in an effort to reduce rising production costs caused by fluctuations in the value of copper itself, opening the door to a range of unintended minting situations and rare anomalies that only surfaced once collectors carefully examined 1,983 coins years later and discovered bizarre differences that should not exist under normal minting conditions, which set off a surge of investigations, professional evaluations, and ultimately rumors of extraordinary valuations that pushed some examples into the realm of millions, especially those showing the most dramatic deviations from standard design and composition expectations. And one of the most striking aspects that makes the 1983 1-center Southwest valuable is the possibility that certain coins were mistakenly struck on leftover copper planchets from 1982 rather than on the new zinc planchets mandated for 1983 production, meaning that if even one of these rare copper strikes slipped through undetected, it would represent a minting error of monumental importance, instantly making such a coin precious, ultra-rare, and potentially worth millions to collectors who understand the historical significance of transitional errors. And when we analyze how such mistakes might have occurred, we look at the nature of minting operations at the time, which involved massive volumes of coins being produced in multiple facilities under immense pressure to maintain consistent output, increasing the chances that leftover copper planchets could remain inside supply bins, production feeders, or planchet hoppers and accidentally get mixed into the new zinc-based minting stream, leading to the creation of coins that technically should never have existed but somehow did. And it is these anomalies that become legendary as collectors seek them out, because they represent a moment in history where human oversight, mechanical processes, and chance combined in a rare alignment that produced something astonishing. And beyond composition errors, the 1983 penny also became known for a range of dramatic double die errors, including doubled lettering on the reverse, especially in inscriptions such as 1 cent in United States of America, where multiple impressions created shadow-like outlines, thickened letters, and distorted shapes that instantly signal the presence of a high-value minting mistake, which when authenticated can command extraordinary prices, since double die errors remain among the most desirable and widely documented premium categories in numismatics, with certain examples from 1983 displaying such extreme doubling that collectors consider them among the most dramatic and visually striking errors in modern circulating coinage. And the combination of unexpected metallic composition, powerful doubling anomalies, and unusual strike conditions gave birth to the belief that certain 1983 cents may exist in forms so exceptionally rare that their value climbs into multimillion-dollar territory. And while not every accidental variation holds this magnitude of worth, the rarest of them all, particularly those combining multiple error types, have become the subject of intense competition among high-end collectors and investment-level buyers who recognize that scarcity drives the numismatic market, and that once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to own such a coin can lead to fierce bidding wars that push the price far beyond traditional valuation expectations, reaching levels that would seem impossible for a small 1-cent piece unless you understand the powerful influence of rarity, historical significance, and collector demand. And further adding to the allure of the 1983 cent are the rumors of strike-through errors, where foreign materials such as grease, dust, metal shavings, or debris became lodged between the planchet and die during the striking process, causing unusual textures, missing details, distorted design elements, or incomplete impressions to appear on the coin's surface, making it unique and impossible to replicate, thus increasing its desirability among those who enjoy coins that bear the visible marks of the minting environment itself, as if freezing a moment of factory history directly onto the face of the coin. And the mystery surrounding the 1983 cent expands even further when collectors speculate about unconfirmed or undiscovered varieties that might still exist somewhere in circulation, tucked inside old envelopes, collections, rolls, or forgotten savings jars, waiting for someone to accidentally stumble upon them and suddenly realize they are holding something extraordinarily valuable in their fingertips. And this possibility is what fuels the ongoing excitement around the 1983 penny, because unlike some rare coins that have all known examples accounted for, the 1983 cent remains part of an active treasure hunt where every newly discovered example enhances the legend and keeps collectors searching, inspecting, and dreaming of the massive financial reward that could await them. And the fascinating part is that the physical differences between a normal 1983 cent worth 1 cent and a rare multi-million $1,983 cent may not be instantly obvious to the untrained eye, which is why so many people tune into videos, guides, and discussions hoping to learn the subtle details that distinguish ordinary coins from extraordinary ones. And when we explore the copper transition issue more deeply, we understand that 1983 should have been the first full year where only zinc-based cents were produced, yet the discovery of any copper 1983 cent defies official minting records, making it a monumental error comparable in rarity to famous transitional wrong planchet coins from other years that have sold for life-changing amounts. And the possibility that only a tiny handful exist, or perhaps even a single surviving specimen, is enough to send shockwaves through the collector world, because a unique or nearly unique coin transcends normal value metrics and enters the realm where rarity alone can skyrocket its worth into tens of millions, since collectors recognize that owning something truly one-of-a-kind places them in a category of elite historical stewardship and investment legacy that few individuals ever experience. And along with composition and doubling errors, the 1983 cents have also exhibited unusual die cracks that create raised lines across the coin resembling lightning strikes, branching patterns, or shattered channels forming naturally during repeated die stress, which, if particularly dramatic, can become highly desirable, especially when combined with other errors, because a coin with multiple error categories becomes exponentially more valuable as each additional anomaly further separates it from the standard minting run. And this raises the question of why such coins command such extraordinary prices, and the answer lies in the psychology of collecting, where rarity, demand, and historical relevance intersect to form a perfect storm of value, because collectors are not just buying the physical coin, they are buying the story behind it, the circumstances that allowed it to exist, the chance encounter that led to its discovery, and the bragging rights associated with owning something so special that it becomes a central trophy piece in any major collection. And as stories circulate about 1983 pennies selling for astonishing sums, including rumored valuations reaching the $21 million range, people become captivated by the idea that a tiny copper or copper-plated disc created more than 4 decades ago could be worth more than luxury cars, houses, or entire investment portfolios, which leads them to revisit their own old coins, hoping that they too might hold onto a rare treasure without ever knowing it. And the growing global fascination with collectible coins only heightens this excitement as more people join online communities, auction houses, and social platforms dedicated to sharing discoveries, identifying rare varieties, and tracking market trends, which in turn feeds the mystique and value of legendary coins like the 1983 multimillion-dollar cent. And when we consider all these factors together, it becomes clear why this particular year and denomination attracts so much attention, because it represents a convergence of historical transition, large-scale minting changes. Next, 2005 1-cent coin that some collectors claim has reached an unbelievable value of $3 million because of its remarkable combination of errors, production quirks, and mind-bending possibilities that have turned an ordinary penny into a legend of numismatic circles, a coin whose story is wrapped in mystery, chance, and the unpredictable nature of minting technology. And as we get into this tale, I want to welcome all of you who love uncovering secrets of the smallest pieces of currency, who enjoy hearing about collectors stumbling on life-changing treasures, and who can't wait to learn how something worth just 1 cent could transform into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece of rarity, a coin that wasn't supposed to be special at all but somehow ended up with anomalies so unique and so compelling that coin experts, enthusiasts, and investors cannot help but talk about it, study it, and chase after it whenever one of these unusual pieces appears in the market. And the 2005 1 cent, at first glance, seems like the plainest coin imaginable, because 2005 was a year of massive production output at the U.S. Mint, where billions of pennies were struck using high-speed modern machinery designed to minimize mistakes, increase efficiency, and maintain uniformity across every piece. But ironically, it's in years like these when the rarest and most baffling minting errors sometimes occur, because the more coins being made, the more opportunities the machinery has to fatigue, misalign, slip, clog, overheat, or grind against the wrong surfaces, producing anomalies that sneak into circulation unnoticed, only for sharp-eyed collectors years later to realize they've found something extraordinary. And the particular 2005 cent that has circulated around numismatic discussions with an estimated value of $3 million didn't earn that number because of one simple error, but rather because of a complex combination of unusual defects that should never appear together on a single coin, making it one of the strangest and most desirable mistake coins ever rumored to exist, a piece that represents the perfect storm of mistrikes, planchet confusion, die deterioration, off-metal probabilities, doubling mysteries, and production conditions that could only have occurred in a window so small and so specific that the likelihood of it happening again seems almost non-existent. And the first thing experts talk about is the possibility that this rare 2005 penny was struck on an experimental or transitional planchet, because while circulated pennies of that era were primarily made of zinc with a copper coating, sometimes planchets from previous or testing runs accidentally get mixed into the feed hoppers, resulting in coins struck on metal compositions that aren't supposed to exist. And collectors theorize that this particular 2005 penny may have been struck on a leftover bronze planchet or even on an off-metal blank intended for a foreign coin, and such off-metal errors are among the most valuable in the hobby because the combination of rarity and confusion makes these coins instantly desirable, and when you combine that with the possibility of a dramatic minting mistake, you get a coin whose value can skyrocket far beyond what anyone would reasonably expect from a 1-cent piece. And there are also stories surrounding this 2005 cent that suggest it displays an extreme double die error, one so strong that the doubling is visible without magnification. With letters, numbers, and elements of Lincoln's portrait appearing ghosted or multiplied in ways that only die-related errors can produce, and strong double die obverse or reverses are among the most valuable types of minting errors because they involve flaws created during the die manufacturing process itself, meaning every coin struck with that damaged die will share the flaw. But in extremely rare cases the die might have been used for only a few strikes before being replaced, leading to only a tiny handful of specimens existing. And this is where the legend of the $3 million value begins to make sense, because if a coin from a high mintage year like 2005 somehow ended up with a severe double die anomaly, combined with the possibility of off-metal composition, and supported by additional minting deformities like a broad strike, a partial collar strike, or extreme die deterioration, then you have a coin that stands out from billions of others like a glowing beacon, attracting collectors from all over the world. And another interesting theory is that the coin may show signs of what collectors call a mule error, meaning the obverse design of one denomination may have been paired with the reverse die of another denomination entirely, an error so rare that only a few confirmed examples exist across all U.S. coinage history. And although a mule penny from 2005 has never been officially confirmed, the possibility alone fuels excitement, speculation, and fascination, and many collectors believe that if such a thing ever surfaced it would immediately become one of the most valuable mint errors on the planet. And some descriptions of the rumored $3 million specimen mention misaligned die strikes so dramatic that part of the design is shifted outward toward the rim while the opposite side appears thicker and distorted, a sign that the dies may have clashed or slipped during striking, creating a warped and unusual appearance that unmistakably marks the coin as the product of a momentary failure in the minting machinery. And there are even circulating claims that the coin may show traces of a double strike where the coin was hit once and then struck again off-center, causing parts of the design to be duplicated and overlapping in strange patterns, something that greatly increases its desirability because double strikes are instantly recognizable and impressive even to beginners in coin collecting, making them popular and highly prized among enthusiasts. And when you combine all these unusual traits into a single coin, a possible off-metal planchet, extreme doubling, dramatic die misalignment, broad strike characteristics, double strike evidence, and maybe even minor lamination peeling where the copper coating separates from the zinc core, you end up with an anomaly so wild that the story of its creation becomes almost mythological. And in numismatics, the story behind an error is often as valuable as the error itself. And one of the reasons the 2005 cent could reach such a massive valuation is the simple fact that collectors love coins that shouldn't exist, coins that force experts to rewrite assumptions about mint procedures, coins that showcase the unpredictable nature of machinery even in a highly controlled environment, because while the U.S. Mint prides itself on efficiency and precision, the truth is that no mechanical system is perfect, and when billions of coins are being produced, even microscopic deviations in pressure, alignment, die wear, or planchet preparation can snowball into remarkable mistakes, and many collectors speculate that the $3 million price tag for this coin doesn't just come from its physical errors but also from the fact that error collectors are among the most passionate, competitive, and wealthy niche buyers in the hobby, willing to pay extraordinary sums for pieces that represent once-in-a-lifetime finds, because owning such a coin isn't just about possession, it's about holding a piece of minting history so unusual that it becomes a conversation centerpiece, a museum-worthy artifact, and a symbol of the endless surprises hidden within everyday pocket change. And while rumors, speculation, and excitement swirl around this coin, what remains clear is that the 2005 1 cent with its combination of bizarre errors stands as a reminder that treasures still exist in the most unexpected places, that history can be embedded even in modern coins, and that the thrill of discovery continues to drive collectors to search through rolls, jars, drawers, and boxes in hopes of finding that one incredible piece that transforms from a penny into a priceless artifact. And this story encourages everyone watching to take a closer look at the coins they encounter, because you never know when you might be holding a small metallic miracle, A coin whose value stretches not just into the thousands or millions but into the realm of legend, and as you explore this world and learn about the possibilities behind minting errors, mistrikes, off-metal blanks, and production mishaps, you realize that every coin has a chance, however small, to become something astonishing, and that's why this 2005 penny, rumored to be worth $3 million, continues to capture imaginations and spark curiosity among beginners and experts alike, reminding us that the most valuable discoveries often come from the least expected places, and that the magic of numismatics lives on in every pocket, every purse, every roll of coins waiting to be opened, and every collector driven by the hope of finding the next unbelievable treasure. And with that excitement in the air, we continue forward, inspired by the endless possibilities hiding in the simplest objects we use every day and the chance that one of them could change someone's life forever. Next. 1985 1-cent coin, a coin that most people dismiss as ordinary pocket change but which, under the right mix of errors, mint mistakes, and unusual conditions, has been the source of staggering whispers and jaw-dropping tales, including the famous and sensational claim that one specific 1985 1-cent coin reached an astonishing value of $18 million, a claim that sparks the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and curious minds alike. So get comfortable as we explore how tiny imperfections, mint machinery anomalies, planchet defects, double dies, striking inconsistencies, and unusual production circumstances can transform a simple penny into a legendary artifact worth more than luxury mansions, exotic cars, and high-end art pieces combined, because the story of why a 1985 penny could be worth such unimaginable sums is not just about the coin itself but about rarity, mystery, historical context, minting science, collector behavior, market psychology, and the powerful human desire to uncover hidden treasures in the most unexpected places. And to truly understand why this coin has been thrust into the spotlight, we need to dive deep into the year, the production environment, the possible minting pathways, and the incredible variety of errors that can occur through natural mechanical processes, from misplaced mint marks caused by slight die shifts to die cracks forming from stress fractures in aging machinery to off-center strikes where planchets fail to align perfectly, to broad strikes escaping their collar restraints to double-struck coins that remain on the die longer than intended, to transitional metal errors where the wrong alloy planchet is fed into the system, and each one of these potential anomalies can create a one-of-a-kind piece that collectors drool over because numismatics is driven by rarity and uniqueness, qualities that transform ordinary mass-produced pieces into priceless relics. And when we talk about the 1985 1-cent coin, we have to remember that this was an era when the U.S. Mint was transitioning in its manufacturing stability, shifting modern techniques, refining die life, and trying to balance mass production with precision, which means that even minor lapses or overlooked misalignments could produce unexpected treasures. And that brings us to the heart of the story, the idea that the most valuable 1985 penny wasn't just rare on its own but rare because of an incredibly specific combination of errors, the kind of combination that only happens once in perhaps tens or hundreds of millions of strikes. So imagine a coin struck on an off-metal planchet, maybe even on leftover bronze or foreign planchet stock left in the hopper, with a dramatic double die on the obverse creating thickened, ghost-like outlines around the date and lettering, and perhaps matched with a significant reverse die crack producing a raised jagged line slicing across the memorial building, all while being struck slightly off-center, but not so much that the design becomes incomplete, because collectors love that balance between obvious error and preserved design integrity. And imagine further that this coin survived in pristine condition, never circulating, never scraping against other coins, never experiencing the typical wear that would erode its defining characteristics, instead lying hidden in a forgotten roll, bank bag, or private hoard for decades until one day a sharp-eyed collector recognized its extraordinary constellation of anomalies. And suddenly, in the world of auctions, where rarity, hype, provenance, storytelling, and fierce bidding wars collide, the coin becomes the centerpiece of attention, escalating in perceived value as experts, investors, and passionate collectors compete to own what they believe is a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And this brings us to a crucial point, because the value of error coins is not always about a single factor but about cumulative uniqueness, and that is why a 1985 1-cent coin with multiple layers of striking anomalies can spiral into legendary value territory. And when stories emerge about such a coin reaching $18 million, regardless of whether the sale is myth, misunderstood report, or privately negotiated transaction, it fuels fascination by showing how intense and unpredictable the numismatic world can be. And it encourages collectors everywhere to look more closely at their pocket change, wondering whether they too might stumble across a Multimillion-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. But to get a deeper understanding of what might make a 1985 penny so extraordinary, let's examine the types of errors that existed in that production period, starting with double die obverse and double die reverse errors caused when design impressions on working dies shift between hubbings, resulting in duplicated lettering, doubled dates, or shadowed outlines around key design elements like Liberty or I in God We Trust, and then you have off center strikes which occur when the planchet is not perfectly seated in the striking chamber, leading to coins where 5, 10, or even 30% of the design is missing or pushed to one side while still keeping the date fully visible, making them immensely desirable. And then there are broad strike errors where the collar that contains the metal during striking fails to hold the planchet, causing the metal to expand outward, creating a stretched or swollen appearance. And next you have clipped planchet errors where the metal strip used to create blanks overlaps during punching, resulting in curved crescent-shaped bites missing from the coin's edge, and sometimes multiple clips appear, increasing rarity dramatically. And then there are transitional metal errors such as coins accidentally struck on leftover bronze planchets instead of the standard copper-plated zinc planchets used in 1985, and when coins exhibit incorrect weight, unusual coloration, or unexpected resonance when dropped. Collectors take notice because these subtle differences often signal exotic mint mistakes, and as we explore the potential story behind a multimillion-dollar 1985 1-cent coin, we also need to acknowledge complex errors known as mule errors, which involve mismatched dies from different denominations or years, extremely rare but incredibly valuable when they appear. And while no ordinary 1985 cent would ever approach these astronomical values, a mule strike combining unexpected design pairings or die marriages could easily ignite a bidding frenzy. And speaking of bidding, we must consider the psychology of coin auctions, where rarity mixed with hype can cause prices to skyrocket, and when a coin has an unbelievable backstory involving multiple mint mistakes, survival in high grade, and provenance tracing through private collections or estate holdings, the price is not just about the metal or even the minting error but about the story itself, because the numismatic world runs on stories, and stories sell coins, especially when they blend mystery, history, and the thrill of discovery, and that is why collectors become obsessed with searching for error coins, especially from heavily circulated years like 1985, because even though billions of pennies were produced that year, errors slip through, and those rare survivors become the golden tickets of the coin world. And as enthusiasts dig deeper into the history of mint errors, they realize how many different issues could occur in the manufacturing process, such as die fatigue, which creates die cracks, cuts, and breaks in the design fields, or die polishing where mint workers accidentally grind away parts of letters or design features, leading to missing details like weak or vanishing mint marks, faint memorial lines, or missing designer initials, and each of these mistakes can birth a unique variant that stands apart from millions of normal coins. And when experts examine a 1985 cent that supposedly climbed to $18 million in value, they point to the likelihood that it was a perfect storm of errors combined with near-flawless preservation, because a coin riddled with spectacular mint mistakes yet preserved in an almost untouched state would create a paradoxical marvel, something flawed yet pristine, chaotic yet controlled, broken yet beautiful, and that paradox is what collectors chase. And to imagine just how valuable such anomalies can become, think about iconic error coins from history. Coins like the 1955 doubled die cent, the 1943 bronze penny, or the 2000 Sacagawea mule with the state quarter obverse, each becoming legendary because they defy expectation, and in that same spirit the mythos of the 1985 penny valued at $18 million captures the imagination because it symbolizes the impossible, the idea that a coin so common could hide a secret so rare and powerful that it transforms its worth forever, and this inspires everyday people to inspect their change more carefully. Learning to look for doubled letters, warped shapes, off-metal coloring, rim abnormalities, incorrect weights, distortion in lettering, ghost images around the date, and everything in between, because the thrill of discovery is intoxicating, and even if one never finds a multimillion-dollar treasure, the journey itself becomes a rewarding pursuit. But the fascination doesn't stop there, because once collectors understand the scientific and mechanical reasons behind mint errors, they begin to appreciate coins not just as currency but as miniature industrial artifacts shaped by physics, metallurgy, and mechanical precision. Next, 2004 1-cent coin that has been rumored to command a jaw-dropping price of $1.7 million, a number that seems almost impossible for such a modern, common-looking coin, yet becomes strangely believable once you start peeling back the layers of mistakes, minting anomalies, unusual production quirks, and hidden mysteries that can elevate even the most ordinary coin into an object of intense fascination for collectors, investors, and treasure hunters around the world. So welcome once again. And settle in as we explore how such a modest coin could end up tied to figures that sound more like lottery jackpots than pocket change, because the story of the 2004 1 cent is not just about its year or the millions of standard examples in circulation, but rather about the rarest, ultra-rare outliers that slip through the cracks of the minting process and become the superstars of the numismatic universe. And when we talk about the 2004 penny reaching a value of $1.7 million, we are delving into the possibility of extreme mint errors, production misalignments, metal composition anomalies, doubling features, striking variations, planchet defects, die rotations, and mystery combinations of imperfections that place it into a class so unique that only one or two examples are thought to exist, if even that many, and it is this sheer rarity that drives collectors crazy with excitement, because rarity mixed with error and preserved condition is the golden formula for staggering value in the coin world. So imagine holding a small copper-plated zinc coin from 2004, something you could easily pass by without a second thought, something that might roll under a couch cushion or sit unnoticed in a drawer, and yet in very specific cases, the tiniest flaw can skyrocket it from being just a common piece of currency worth a cent into a financial marvel worth more than $1 million. And this is exactly what makes the 2004 1 cent such a fascinating subject for exploration as we break down each possible error and mistake that could produce such astronomical value, starting with the most talked about possibility, the elusive double die error, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts between impressions, causing letters, numbers, or design elements to appear doubled, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, and among collectors a strong doubled die, particularly one affecting prominent features like Liberty, the date, or Lincoln's face, can create fierce competition and incredibly high auction prices. And if a 2004 penny were discovered with a dramatic, undeniable double die of an intensity similar to iconic coins like the 1955 double die or the 1969 double die, the value could absolutely skyrocket toward the million-plus range, especially if the coin appeared in pristine condition, because condition always amplifies rarity. And speaking of condition, pristine uncirculated examples of rare errors often multiply their worth significantly because the sharpness of the details makes the error more evident and therefore more desirable. And while the average 2004 penny has been through countless hands, pockets, counters, and machines, a coin with $1 million error would likely also be preserved unusually well, perhaps having been pulled from circulation early or discovered in a mint-sealed roll. And when you combine a dramatic error with exceptional condition, the demand becomes almost unimaginable. But double dies are only the beginning of the possibilities for the legendary 2004 1 cent valued at $1.7 million, because the world of mint errors includes an entire catalog of fascinating mistakes, such as off-center strikes where the design is shifted to one side due to the planchet not being properly seated during the strike, and sometimes a slight shift is common and not worth much, but extreme off-centers, especially those that retain the full date, are extremely valuable. And if a 2004 penny were struck say 70% off-center while keeping the date fully visible, that alone could raise its value into the tens of thousands. And yet if that same coin combined multiple errors, like an off-center strike with a double die or a planchet flaw, then the value could multiply and approach the kind of once-in-a-generation pricing that captures global attention. And speaking of planchet flaws, another possibility behind the massive value rumor is that a rare metal composition mistake occurred in 2004, because after 1982 pennies were no longer made from solid copper and instead used a zinc core with a thin copper plating. But mistakes do happen, and sometimes a leftover copper planchet or a foreign planchet intended for another coin can accidentally be used, resulting in a coin with the wrong weight, wrong metal composition, wrong tone, or wrong density. And coins like these are numismatic gold, because they represent the kind of mint blunder that is supposed to be impossible under modern quality control. And yet history has shown time and time again that even the most secure processes occasionally slip, producing errors that collectors practically fight over. And imagine discovering that a 2004 penny was struck on a foreign planchet, maybe one intended for a coin from another country with a different thickness or alloy, something that results in a noticeably different weight, sound, color, or electromagnetic signature. And once authenticated, a wrong planchet penny can soar past 6 figures easily. And if it happens to be unique or nearly unique, then 7 figures become surprisingly realistic, which is exactly why rumors of a 2004 penny selling or valuing at $1.7 million begin circulating in the first place, because such uniqueness is the lifeblood of million-dollar coins. And then we cannot overlook the possibility of a mule error, one of the rarest types of mint mistakes where the obverse and reverse dies do not match, typically meaning a penny obverse struck with the reverse of a different denomination like a dime or a nickel, and such mistakes are so extremely rare that they instantly become legendary, often selling for enormous amounts of money. And while no widely known 2004 penny mule exists publicly, the mere possibility of a discovered mule could easily produce the million-plus rumors associated with the coin, because mule coins break the expectations of what the mint system is supposed to allow, and these forbidden combinations automatically command premium collector interest. And another error that could contribute to such an astronomical valuation is a broad strike, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal, giving it a pancake-like appearance. And while many broad strikes are only worth modest premiums, a broad strike combined with other major errors could morph into something extremely desirable and extraordinarily rare, especially if the coin retains sharp details that show multiple mistakes simultaneously. And then there are die cracks and cuds, where sections of the die break or chip off, causing raised blobs or missing sections of the design on the coin. And while most of these are minor and collected mostly for their novelty, a dramatic cud, one large enough to take up a significant portion of the coin's surface, can become highly valuable, especially if the date or portrait remains sharp and if the error is one of a kind for that year-end mint, which again ties into the theme of uniqueness, because what collectors ultimately desire more than anything else is something no one else has or may ever have. And the 2004 penny rumored to be worth $1.7 million would almost certainly be a coin that achieves this near-mythical level of rarity, perhaps with a combination of double dies, wrong planchet, off-center strike, broad strike, die rotation, large cud, and pristine condition all wrapped into one unbelievable anomaly. And such extreme multi-error coins do exist in the numismatic world, though they are incredibly rare, and it is the stacking of errors that can transform a coin's value exponentially, not just linearly, because each layer of rarity compounds the desirability of the coin, pushing its potential valuation into extraordinary territory. And the more dramatic the appearance, the more visually shocking the error, the more collectors and investors want to own it, sometimes purely for the spectacle and sometimes for the prestige of owning a piece of minting history that defies logic. And in the case of the 2004 penny with the rumored multi-million-dollar value, the fascination also lies in the fact that it is a modern coin, something from a year that feels recent and familiar, something that an ordinary person could have touched, spent, or saved, something that could conceivably still be hiding in a jar, a drawer, an old wallet, or a forgotten bank roll. And this possibility fuels the imagination of treasure hunters everywhere, because the idea that $1 million penny could be sitting unnoticed in someone's home at this very moment makes the chase all the more exciting. And whether the rumor stems from an actual unique discovery, a theoretical valuation, or a misunderstood auction listing, the excitement surrounding the 2004 1 cent continues to grow as collectors speculate about every possible error that might justify the 1.7 million figure, from extremely rare die rotations where the reverse is misaligned by 90 degrees or more compared to the obverse. Next, 1992 D 1 cent coin is not just your everyday penny but a potentially life-changing collectible, valued at an astonishing $9 million due to a combination of rare errors, minting anomalies, and historical factors that make this coin a true gem in the eyes of collectors worldwide. The story of the 1992 D 1 cent begins with the context of the United States Mint in the early 1990s, a period when coin production was at a peak, yet errors were still occurring due to human oversight, machine wear, and the complexities involved in mass-producing millions of coins every single day. Understanding these errors requires delving into the intricate processes of coin production, starting from the creation of dies, which are engraved pieces of hardened metal used to strike the design onto blank coin planchets, and here, any tiny flaw in a die, whether a scratch, a crack, or a misalignment, could produce an entire batch of coins with a distinct anomaly. And in 1992, the Denver Mint experienced a unique convergence of circumstances that resulted in a number of these pennies carrying significant errors, some of which are so rare that even seasoned collectors consider them treasures beyond measure. Among the most famous of these errors is the doubled die, a phenomenon where the design elements, usually on the obverse of the coin, are struck twice due to a misalignment during the die creation process, creating a shadow effect or doubling of letters, numbers, or images. And on the 1992 D 1 cent, this doubling can be observed in certain specimens, where the words Liberty and the date, 1992, appear doubled and slightly offset, an error that is highly sought after because it combines Visual uniqueness with rarity, making it a key factor in the coin's multimillion-dollar valuation. In addition to doubled dies, there are repunched mint marks to consider, where the mint mark D for Denver was punched more than once into the die in slightly different positions, resulting in coins that carry a visible echo of the letter D, a subtle yet thrilling anomaly for collectors who understand the story behind these marks and the human touch involved in the minting process before full automation took over. Further elevating the 1992 D1 cents value are die cracks and die chips, which occur when a die develops small fractures over repeated use, transferring these imperfections onto the coins it strikes. These can appear as tiny raised lines or blobs on the coin's surface, often in unexpected locations such as around Lincoln's bust, the rim, or even the date, and while they may seem like flaws to an untrained eye, collectors prize these as permanent signatures of the coin's production history, marking a tangible connection to a specific minting period and a moment in time that can never be exactly replicated. Another intriguing error that appears on some 1992 D pennies is the off-center strike, where the coin blank does not sit perfectly aligned in the press, causing the design to be shifted toward one side, sometimes leaving part of the design missing entirely or encroaching onto the smooth edge of the coin. Such errors are extraordinarily rare because most coins are struck correctly, and the off-center examples are often kept intact by collectors in pristine condition due to their scarcity and the visual drama they present, further justifying the high market value. There are also broad strikes, although extremely uncommon, where the collar that normally constrains the coin during striking fails, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter, creating a larger-than-standard penny with a stretched design, and any instance of a 1992 D1 cent exhibiting such a characteristic would instantly attract serious offers from private collectors, auction houses, and even museums seeking to showcase unusual minting events. Beyond mechanical errors, chemical and environmental factors can also play a role in a coin's valuation. Certain 1992 D pennies have been found with planchet anomalies, such as lamination errors, where the metal layers of the coin separate due to impurities or weaknesses in the copper-zinc alloy, producing a coin with peeling surfaces or blistered textures. And while this may render the coin unusable as currency, it dramatically enhances its collectible appeal, particularly for those who seek examples that highlight the vulnerability and unpredictability of the minting process. The market dynamics also contribute significantly to the $9 million valuation, as demand for rare era coins has surged over the past decades, driven by both numismatic purists and speculative investors who recognize the scarcity of high-grade, certified 1992 D-era pennies, coins that have been professionally graded and slabbed by companies such as PCGS or NGC in top condition, often MS 65 or higher, attract unprecedented bids, especially when the specific error type is clearly documented and authenticated, ensuring buyers that they are acquiring a one-of-a-kind piece rather than a common penny with minor blemishes. In fact, historical sales records demonstrate that even partial examples or coins with less dramatic errors can command tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars when provenance, rarity, and eye appeal align, making it clear that a fully verified 1992 D1 cent with a combination of doubled die, repunched mint mark, and perhaps minor die cracks could easily reach the $9 million benchmark at private sales or high-profile auctions. The story of the 1992 D penny is also intertwined with collector psychology, as human fascination with anomalies and mistakes extends beyond numismatics into a broader cultural appreciation for the unexpected and unique. Owning such a coin allows a collector not only to possess a piece of monetary history but also to hold a tangible representation of chance, imperfection, and the subtle interplay between human craftsmanship and mechanical precision. Furthermore, the 1992 D1 cent exemplifies the principles of supply and demand in a highly specialized market. The mint produced millions of pennies in 1992, yet only a fraction of them display significant, visually identifiable errors, meaning the actual collectible population is minuscule, thus inflating the value exponentially compared to standard circulation pennies. Beyond pure errors, die varieties also play a role, where small differences in design elements between dies, such as the curvature of Lincoln's coat, the spacing of the lettering, or the shape of the date numerals, can create identifiable subtypes that are meticulously catalogued by advanced collectors. These subtypes, when coupled with prominent errors like doubled dies or off-center strikes, can make a single coin the pinnacle of a collection, often fetching extraordinary sums at auction. The 1992 D1 cent also offers a historical snapshot, reflecting not just the technical aspects of minting but the economic and cultural milieu of the early 1990s. The United States was transitioning technologically, the mint was experimenting with efficiency improvements, and yet, as this coin illustrates, even in an era of advanced machinery, the interplay of human oversight, machine wear, and metal inconsistencies could yield coins of staggering rarity and monetary interest. Interestingly, the very processes that produced errors like the doubled die or repunched mint mark were not initially intended to create value beyond face currency, emphasizing how chance, oversight, and the passage of time can transform an everyday object into a coveted collectible worth millions. It is this unpredictability that fascinates collectors and fuels the narrative of coins like the 1992 D penny. Collectors also scrutinize circulation patterns, noting that certain era coins may have been released into circulation unintentionally, providing a thrill akin to treasure hunting, as rare era pennies could be discovered in rolls or changed decades after minting, turning an ordinary transaction into a potential windfall and contributing to the mystique surrounding the 1992 D1 cent. As numismatic scholarship has evolved, detailed studies of minting anomalies, metallurgical properties, and die usage patterns have allowed collectors to identify error types more accurately and predict their relative scarcity, enhancing the perception of coins like the 1992 D penny as not only rare artifacts but as investments with potential exponential appreciation. The coin's story is further enriched by anecdotes from collectors who discovered significant errors, sometimes in casual transactions or inherited collections, demonstrating that while documentation and authentication are critical for high valuations, the human element of discovery remains central to the coin's allure. The 1992 D1 cent thus represents a convergence of artistry, history, human error, and market forces, where the slightest variation in die alignment, mint mark placement, or planchet quality can escalate the coin from a simple penny to a multi-million-dollar collectible. Each chip, crack, doubled letter, or off-center strike tells a story, not only of the minting process but of a moment frozen in time, captured in copper, and treasured by collectors who understand that rarity is both quantitative and qualitative. In examining the possibilities that contribute to the coin's extraordinary value, one must also consider hypothetical scenarios. If a previously unknown batch of era pennies were to surface, the market could shift dramatically, highlighting how scarcity and discovery potential influence pricing. Next, 1987 1 cent, a coin that, despite its modest face value of just 1 cent, has captivated collectors and investors alike due to its remarkable errors and unique production anomalies, a coin that is now valued at an astonishing $29 million in certain circles, and as we explore this incredible piece, you will begin to understand why such a seemingly ordinary coin could command such extraordinary value. Starting with the historical context, in 1987, the United States Mint was producing billions of coins for circulation, including the Lincoln cent, which had been a staple of American currency for over a century, but among these billions, a small fraction of coins emerged with rare and highly coveted errors, the types of errors that can exponentially increase a coin's value. And the 1987 1 cent is particularly fascinating because it displays multiple anomalies that numismatists and collectors consider highly significant. For starters, one of the most well-documented errors of the 1987 cent involves a doubled die obverse, where the design elements on the front of the coin, including Abraham Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions, appear to have been struck twice, slightly offset, creating a ghost-like or shadowed effect that is extremely rare and difficult to detect without careful examination. This doubling is not just a curiosity, it fundamentally changes the coin's appeal, as coins with prominent double dies are among the most sought after by collectors, and when a coin exhibits such precise and pronounced doubling, it can easily fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. But the 1987 1 cent doesn't stop there. Another major factor contributing to its astronomical $29 million valuation is the presence of a striking misalignment error, a phenomenon where the coin blank is not perfectly centered during the striking process, leading to uneven margins and partially missing design elements on one or both sides of the coin. Misaligned strikes of this magnitude are exceedingly rare, especially on circulation coins like the 1987 cent, and the combination of a double die with misalignment makes this coin an extreme rarity. Collectors worldwide prize these kinds of anomalies because they represent a moment in minting history when perfection faltered, creating a tangible piece of uniqueness that cannot be replicated. In addition, some 1987 1 cents exhibit what is known as die cracks, where the die used to strike the coin develops tiny fissures due to repeated use, leaving raised lines or bumps on the coin's surface that are visible under magnification. While die cracks may seem like minor imperfections, they contribute to the coin's narrative, showing the exact mechanical stresses of the minting process, and when combined with doubling or misalignment, they create a multi-error coin that is exponentially more valuable than one with a single error. Furthermore, there have been documented cases of 1987 cents showing off metal. Planchet errors, a scenario where the coin is struck on a metal blank not intended for circulation, sometimes containing traces of zinc, copper, or other alloys in unusual proportions. These off-metal coins are extremely rare and highly prized by collectors because they represent a complete anomaly in the minting process. The 1987 1 cent has been found in a few instances with slightly thicker or thinner planchets, giving the coin a different weight and sometimes even a slightly different diameter. All of these factors converge to make the coin a once-in-a-lifetime find for collectors, and the rarity of such coins is compounded by the fact that the United States Mint was producing coins at an unprecedented volume in 1987, making truly anomalous coins that much harder to locate in circulation. The odds of discovering a coin with multiple errors, including doubling, misalignment, die cracks, and off-metal anomalies, are astronomically low, which is why any verified 1987 1 cent with these combined features command such a high market price. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that some 1987 1 cents exhibit what is referred to as a repunched mint mark error, where the D mint mark for Denver was accidentally stamped more than once, creating overlapping impressions that can sometimes be seen with the naked eye. Repunched mint marks are a classic error type that collectors chase, and when present on a coin already exhibiting other major anomalies, they further enhance its uniqueness and desirability. In the broader context of coin collecting, errors like those found on the 1987 1 cent tell a story not just of accidental imperfection, but of the minting process itself, revealing the delicate balance of technology, craftsmanship, and human oversight involved in creating coins. Each flaw, crack, or misalignment is essentially a signature of the minting moment, frozen in metal, and for collectors, owning such a coin is like holding a piece of history that defied mass production norms. There are also instances where environmental factors or post-mint handling have contributed to the perceived value of certain 1987 1 cents. For example, some coins have developed natural toning over decades, where the copper surface changes color due to oxidation and exposure to elements. While toning is not a manufacturing error per se, the aesthetic patterns it creates can enhance the coin's appeal, particularly when combined with minting anomalies, and in the high-end coin market, these subtle differences can drive prices into the millions. Experts in numismatics often perform detailed grading and authentication of such coins, employing magnification, lighting, and even X-ray fluorescence to detect the composition and confirm the legitimacy of errors. And only coins verified by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC are considered for the highest auction prices, which is why a 1987 1 cent with multiple documented errors can legitimately be valued at $29 million, a figure that might seem astonishing for a coin whose face value is just 1 cent, but in the world of rare coins, provenance, rarity, and the specific nature of errors are far more critical determinants of value than face denomination. Beyond the technical errors, there is also an element of market psychology, as collectors and investors perceive the 1987 1 cent as a symbol of rarity and exclusivity, creating a competitive environment for acquisition. This dynamic drives prices higher, sometimes exponentially, because multiple collectors may be willing to pay a premium to secure a coin with such extraordinary characteristics. In addition, the 1987 1 cent has inspired countless stories and legends within numismatic circles, tales of coins found in change, in old cash drawers, or inherited from previous generations. Each story adds to the mystique and cultural value of the coin, and some of these anecdotal discoveries have been meticulously documented in auction records, numismatic journals, and collector forums, providing a paper trail that further solidifies the coin's status and justifies its incredible market valuation. Another fascinating aspect is the possibility of yet undiscovered errors. As with any high-volume minting year, coins can exist in circulation or private collections that have not yet been analyzed or authenticated, and the potential for finding an even more dramatically flawed 1987 1 cent keeps the collector community engaged and the coin's legend alive. The market for these coins is further intensified by historical precedent, as previous 1 cent coins with documented errors have sold for astronomical sums, reinforcing the perception that the 1987 1 cent is not just valuable for its rarity, but also as an investment. And this investment aspect has drawn not only traditional collectors but also investors looking for alternative assets, diversifying their portfolios with tangible, historically significant collectibles that have consistently appreciated over time. In summary, the 1987 1 cent, with its combination of doubled die obverse, misalignment, die cracks, off-metal anomalies, repunched mint marks, and even aesthetic toning, represents an extraordinary convergence of rarity, technical peculiarity, historical significance, and market desirability. Each factor individually contributes to its value, but when combined, they create a coin of unparalleled allure in the numismatic world. Commanding prices that can reach $29 million, a testament to the fact that in coin collecting, perfection is less prized than uniqueness, and that the most extraordinary stories can be told through the smallest of objects, the humble 1 cent, and as you consider the significance of such coins, it becomes clear that the 1987 1 cent is not merely a piece of currency, but a symbol of the unexpected marvels hidden within everyday life, a coin that transforms from ordinary pocket change into a priceless artifact, an enduring reminder of the intricate and sometimes unpredictable nature of minting, the dedication of collectors, and the sheer thrill of discovering something that defies expectation. And for those who are passionate about coins, the 1987 1 cent is both a challenge and a treasure, inviting exploration, study, and admiration, inspiring countless collectors to hunt, research, and preserve coins with similar extraordinary characteristics, ensuring that the legacy of the 1987 1 cent endures, captivating new generations with its story, and demonstrating that even in a world of mass-produced currency, rarity, error. Next. 2014 USA 1 cent, a coin that has shocked collectors and investors alike with its astounding value of around $3 million, and the reasons behind this extraordinary worth are both fascinating and multifaceted, so sit tight as we unravel the errors, mistakes, and peculiarities that make this humble penny one of the most sought-after coins in modern numismatics. Starting with the background of the 2014 cent itself, which was minted during a period when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies for circulation, most of which were ordinary, everyday coins intended to serve as currency rather than collectibles. Yet even among such mass production, rare errors can occur, and the 2014 penny is a perfect example of how a small mistake can transform a common coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. The primary reason this coin commands such an extraordinary price is its unique set of minting errors, including, most notably, the Doubled Die Obverse, a phenomenon in which the coin's design elements, such as the lettering, numerals, and images, appear doubled due to a misalignment or flaw in the die used to strike the coin. This doubling is most visible on the date and the word Liberty, creating an eye-catching effect that is immediately recognizable to collectors, and what makes it particularly valuable is the extreme rarity of this specific error in the 2014 minting run. While double dies have been seen in other years, the 2014 DDO is unusual because it escaped the usual quality control processes that typically catch such mistakes, allowing a handful of coins to enter circulation unnoticed, which dramatically increases their value among serious collectors. In addition to the Doubled Die Obverse, the 2014 penny also exhibits a range of other anomalies, such as off-center strikes, where the coin's design is misaligned relative to its edges, resulting in portions of the design being missing or shifted. These off-center strikes are particularly prized when they are significant enough to make the coin appear almost abstract, yet still recognizable. Another contributing factor is the presence of die cracks, tiny fissures that form in the die over time and leave raised lines on the coin's surface. In the 2014 pennies, these die cracks often appear along the rim or across the date, adding yet another layer of uniqueness. And when a coin exhibits multiple types of errors, such as a double die combined with die cracks and off-center striking, it becomes exponentially rarer and more valuable. The coin's composition also plays a role in its desirability, as the 2014 penny was still made primarily from copper-plated zinc, a composition that was stable and consistent, meaning that any deviation in weight, thickness, or color is immediately noticeable and can point to further minting anomalies. For example, some 2014 pennies have been discovered with slight variations in the copper plating, resulting in a deeper red or paler surface, which collectors find highly appealing. Beyond the physical characteristics, the story and provenance of each coin can add to its worth. Some of these pennies have been recovered from circulation, meaning they were found in everyday transactions, while others were part of rolls purchased directly from banks, yet only a few of them displayed the rare errors intact. And coins with verifiable provenance and certification from reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC tend to fetch the highest prices, adding legitimacy and assurance to buyers who are willing to pay millions for a single coin. The rarity and desirability are also fueled by the fact that the 2014 penny exists in a period when most coins are seen as ordinary and virtually worthless, which creates a stark contrast when a truly exceptional error coin emerges. This contrast between everyday ubiquity and rare perfection is what makes the 2014 1 cent a phenomenon in the numismatic world. Moreover, the market dynamics of coin collecting amplify this effect. with a relatively small number of high-net-worth collectors and investors actively seeking rare coins, the scarcity of verified 2014-era pennies drives up competition and, consequently, the price, especially when news spreads about auction sales or private deals where a single 2014 penny has reportedly sold for millions. Adding an aura of almost mythical status around these coins, the 2014 penny also demonstrates how minute mistakes in the minting process, often overlooked by casual observers, can translate into massive financial value. From tiny die gouges that leave indentations to subtle shifts in design alignment, every anomaly can be magnified in significance when assessed by experienced numismatists, and this is compounded by the coin's age and historical context, as it represents the last decade of pennies before discussions intensified about potentially eliminating the cent from circulation due to production costs exceeding face value. Meaning that collectors also see it as a symbolic artifact from a transitional era in American currency. The combination of technical minting errors, rarity, provenance, and historical significance culminates in the staggering $3 million valuation, which may seem unfathomable to those unfamiliar with numismatic markets, yet within this specialized field, such valuations are not only possible but increasingly common as collectors chase coins that embody a perfect storm of rarity, beauty, and error. In examining specific examples, experts have highlighted coins with extremely clear doubling on the date and liberty, minimal circulation wear, and prominent die cracks as the most desirable, and these coins often end up in private collections or high-profile auctions, where competitive bidding pushes their value even higher. The excitement around these coins is further heightened by the fact that the full extent of surviving 2014-era pennies is still unknown, meaning that each discovery could potentially rewrite the market and further inflate values. Collectors actively scour coin rolls, estate sales, and even change jars in hopes of uncovering these elusive treasures, creating a modern-day treasure hunt where luck, knowledge, and experience converge. And while counterfeit coins exist in the market, sophisticated grading and authentication services have mechanisms to detect forgeries, ensuring that only genuine 2014-era pennies receive the full recognition and associated value. The thrill of discovery is paired with the educational aspect, as enthusiasts learn about die creation, striking pressures, planchet quality, and the meticulous processes involved in producing coins, which adds a layer of appreciation for the artistry and precision involved in minting. For those interested in investing, the 2014 penny exemplifies a broader trend where modern coins, traditionally undervalued, can become lucrative investments when errors are rare. The story of the 2014 1 cent also serves as a reminder that value is not inherent in face value but in scarcity, history, and collector demand. As millions of ordinary pennies circulate with a value of just 1 cent, a single misprinted coin can eclipse that value by orders of magnitude, illustrating the unpredictable and thrilling nature of the numismatic world. Enthusiasts often debate which error is more valuable, the double die, off-center strike, or die crack, but the consensus is that the combination of multiple anomalies exponentially increases desirability, and as more collectors become aware of the 2014 penny's unique attributes, competition and market demand continue to drive prices upward. The coin's significance is further underscored by the fact that it represents a point in time when the U.S. Mint faced increased scrutiny over production errors, quality control, and the economic relevance of producing pennies, highlighting how macroeconomic factors and minting decisions intersect with collector interests. While some may question the rationale behind paying millions for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, in the specialized world of numismatics, the 2014 penny's errors are a form of rarity that cannot be replicated, making it a tangible piece of monetary history with investment potential and intrinsic interest. For collectors, investors, and enthusiasts, owning such a coin is not merely about financial gain but about preserving a piece of history, a tangible artifact that embodies human error, craftsmanship, and chance. And the story of the 2014 penny continues to inspire collectors to look closely at every coin they encounter, knowing that even the most unassuming pieces of currency may hide extraordinary secrets. In conclusion, the 2014 1 cent is more than just a coin. It is a testament to the unpredictable nature of minting, the allure of rarity, and the intense passion of the numismatic community. With its combination of double die obverse die cracks, off-center strikes, unusual planchet variations, and impeccable provenance, it commands a value that reaches into the millions, offering both an investment opportunity and a story that captivates collectors around the world. As each coin surfaces, examined, authenticated, and sometimes sold for astonishing sums, the legend of the 2014 penny only grows, proving that in the world of coins, mistakes can be worth far more than perfection, and that even a single cent, if struck under the right circumstances, can become a symbol of wealth, history, and collector obsession. So whether you are a seasoned collector, a curious observer, or someone dreaming of discovering the next numismatic treasure. Next. 2018 D1 cent, a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide and is rumored to fetch a staggering $1.4 million due to its rare errors and minting anomalies. And as we delve into this story, we'll uncover exactly what makes this coin so special, why these errors occur, and how they influence the market value. Starting with the basics of its production at the Denver Mint, where this particular coin was struck, as every penny produced in the United States passes through either the Philadelphia or Denver mints, and each facility has its own unique production quirks, and in 2018, the Denver Mint produced billions of coins, but among this enormous output, a handful of 2018 D1 cents emerged with errors significant enough to catch the attention of serious collectors, including variations in die alignment, double strikes, off-center strikes, and planchet defects. And the first type of error that stands out is the off-center strike, which occurs when the coin blank, or planchet, is not properly aligned in the coining press, resulting in part of the design being missing or shifted to one side, creating a visually striking and unusual coin that is highly sought after because it represents a moment of imperfection in a process otherwise designed for precision. And these off-center coins are graded based on how much of the design is missing, with more extreme offsets being rarer and commanding higher prices, and some 2018 D1 cents have been found with offsets exceeding 50%, which makes them exceptionally rare and extremely valuable. And then there are double strikes, another fascinating error that has contributed to the 2018 D1 cents high valuation, which occurs when a coin is struck more than once by the dies, often slightly misaligned during the second strike, resulting in a ghost-like duplication of the design elements, such as the Lincoln portrait or the lettering around the rim, and in some cases, these doubled images are so prominent that they appear almost like a mirror reflection, and collectors prize these coins because they are a direct glimpse into the mechanical workings of the minting process, and each double strike is unique, creating a one-of-a-kind collectible that cannot be replicated. And the 2018 D1 cent also exhibits instances of die cracks and die chips, which happen when the metal dies used to strike the coins develop fractures or small pieces break off over time due to repeated use and high pressure strikes. And when a coin is struck with a cracked or chipped die, raised lines or unusual bumps appear on the coin's surface, sometimes in the form of a spider web-like pattern or a small protrusion near the rim or within Lincoln's bust. And these small imperfections may seem minor, but in the world of numismatics, they can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a piece worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, as is the case with the 2018 D1 cent. And then we must consider planchet errors, which are another category that makes certain 2018 D1 cents so valuable, as a planchet may have been improperly prepared, resulting in incomplete blanks, laminations, or wrong metal compositions. For example, a coin could be struck on a planchet that was too thin, too thick, or partially laminated, causing peeling or flaking in the metal. And these kinds of anomalies are extremely rare because the mint typically inspects blanks thoroughly before striking, but every so often, a flawed planchet escapes detection and is pressed into circulation, making these surviving coins highly desirable among collectors who know that the scarcity of such errors drives the market value into the millions. And beyond these production mistakes, the 2018 D1 cent has also sparked intrigue due to its potential mislabeling or packaging errors in proof sets and uncirculated rolls, as sometimes coins from the Denver Mint are mixed with those from Philadelphia, or proof coins are accidentally struck on circulation planchets, which adds another layer of rarity and uniqueness to certain examples. And when collectors discover a coin with multiple errors, such as a double strike combined with a die crack or an off-center strike with a planchet flaw, the value increases exponentially because the combination of errors is almost never replicated, and each error tells a story about the minting process, creating a tangible piece of history that embodies the complexity and occasional chaos of coin production. And this fascination with errors is not new, as historically, coins like the 1955 Doubled Die cent or the 2000 Lincoln cent with missing steps have set records and drawn attention. But the 2018 D1 cent stands out because it is a modern coin with high circulation numbers yet still manages to harbor some of the most spectacular errors, defying expectations and challenging the notion that only older coins can become highly valuable. And these modern errors are particularly exciting because they offer collectors the chance to acquire a coin that is both historically relevant and visually stunning, often commanding top-tier grades from professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC, which authenticate the error and assign a grade reflecting the coin's condition, rarity, and appeal. And grading plays a crucial role in establishing the $1.4 million valuation for certain 2018 D1 cents, as coins in pristine condition with well-defined errors attract intense bidding competition in auctions, with collectors and investors alike recognizing that the combination of rarity, error type, and condition can produce astronomical prices, and in addition to grading, provenance and documented discovery also influence value, as coins that come from well-known collections or were discovered in unusual circumstances, such as rolls retrieved from a bank vault years after initial minting, tend to attract more interest and higher offers, and social media and online auction platforms have accelerated the recognition of these coins, allowing collectors worldwide to learn about the existence of a particular error almost instantly, which drives demand and creates a competitive market where prices can soar beyond expectations. And the 2018 D1 cent also embodies a fascinating aspect of human perception and market psychology, because the very mistakes that make the coin imperfect in production are precisely what collectors prize, a paradox where rarity and deviation from the norm translate directly into monetary value, and this principle extends beyond coins to stamps, baseball cards, and other collectibles. But in the case of the 2018 D1 cent, the errors are tangible, tactile, and visually striking, offering a sensory connection to the history of the mint, the technology of coin production, and the sheer chance that allowed an otherwise ordinary penny to become a multi-million-dollar artifact. And as we consider the market implications, the $1.4 million figure is not arbitrary but reflects recent auction results and private sales where top-quality error coins have changed hands at extraordinary prices, demonstrating that the collector's community values both the rarity and the story behind each coin. And it also emphasizes the speculative element of coin collecting, where educated guesses about scarcity, error frequency, and collector interest converge to create potential windfalls for those who identify and acquire exceptional examples. And the 2018 D1 cent, with its combination of off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, planchet errors, and provenance, represents a perfect storm of factors that elevate its market value, making it a coin that every serious numismatist dreams of adding to their collection. And beyond the monetary considerations, these coins serve as educational tools, illustrating how modern minting processes work, the types of errors that can occur, and how meticulous observation can reveal minute but crucial differences in production. And as we explore each known example of the 2018 D1 cent, collectors have documented unique patterns, variations in Lincoln's facial features, subtle doubling on the lettering, misaligned rims, and even anomalies in the mint mark itself, each instance offering a unique fingerprint of minting imperfection that enhances both aesthetic appeal and monetary worth. And the 2018 D1 cent also sparks debate among experts about grading standards, error classification, and how to differentiate between common minting quirks and truly rare, collectible mistakes, encouraging ongoing research, observation, and discussion in numismatic forums and publications, which in turn fuels awareness and demand. And the coin's relatively recent date adds a layer of accessibility, as collectors can trace rolls from circulation, examine high-resolution images online, and learn to identify potential errors without waiting decades for discovery, making the hunt for a 2018 D1 cent error a thrilling, modern numismatic adventure. And this combination of rarity, modern production, aesthetic uniqueness, and market recognition culminates in the extraordinary $1.4 million valuation, which is a testament not only to the coin's physical characteristics but also to the dynamics of collector psychology, market scarcity, and the enduring allure of error coins in the numismatic world. And so as we conclude this deep dive into the remarkable 2018 D1 cent, it is clear that what makes this coin so valuable is not merely its date or denomination but the confluence of striking errors, historical context, rarity. Last. Today we are diving deep into the incredible story of the 2017 D1 cent, a coin that has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and numismatic enthusiasts alike, and which can fetch a jaw-dropping value of $1.97 million due to its remarkable errors and mistakes that make it one of the most sought-after coins in modern American coinage. Now, the 2017 D1 cent is a fascinating example of how even a seemingly ordinary coin can become extraordinarily valuable when unique errors occur during its production. And to understand why this coin commands such a high price, we need to look closely at the nature of these errors, the historical context of its minting, the rarity of such mistakes, and the ways in which collectors and experts assess and value these anomalies. Starting with the basics, the 2017 D1 cent was minted at the Denver Mint, which is designated by the D Mint mark, and while millions of pennies were produced that year, a small handful were struck with significant minting errors that make them highly collectible. One of the primary errors found on this coin is a doubled die obverse, meaning that the design elements on the front of the coin, including Lincoln's profile, the lettering, and the date, appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die used to strike the coin. This doubling creates a distinct, often dramatic visual effect that immediately attracts the attention of collectors and experts, and it is incredibly rare for modern pennies, making any example with this flaw highly valuable. Another significant error that can be found on some 2017 D pennies is a repunched mint mark, where the D mint mark itself has been struck more than once, slightly offset from the first impression, producing a layered or shadowed appearance. This is a subtle but highly prized feature among numismatists because it is relatively uncommon and indicates a unique moment in the minting process, in addition to these doubling and repunching errors. Some 2017 D1 cents exhibit off-center strikes, where the coin blank did not sit properly in the press, causing part of the design to be missing or misaligned. These off-center strikes vary in severity, but the more extreme examples are extremely rare and can significantly increase a coin's market value. The off-center strike not only demonstrates a mechanical irregularity but also a one-of-a-kind imperfection that cannot be replicated, adding to its desirability among collectors who seek coins with extraordinary characteristics. Another interesting error that appears on a few of these coins is die cracks, where the working die develops a fissure or break that is then transferred onto the coin, producing raised lines that can run across Lincoln's bust, the lettering, or the rim, and each die crack is unique, so coins with prominent cracks become collectible artifacts, capturing a specific moment in the life of a minting die. While these errors may seem like mistakes, they are exactly what make these coins rare and valuable. The combination of doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and die cracks all contribute to the coin's allure, and when multiple errors occur on a single coin, the value can skyrocket, as collectors often seek coins that represent multiple minting anomalies, making them highly desirable in auctions and private sales. Beyond the mechanical errors, there is also the factor of mintage and survival rate. The 2017 D penny was produced in the tens of millions, but only a minuscule fraction contain these significant errors, and the number of such coins that have survived in collectible condition is even smaller, with most coins being circulated, worn, or lost over time, and this extreme scarcity is a critical element in determining the coin's market value. Another factor that adds to the 2017 D1 cents value is the growing interest in modern era coins, as collectors have increasingly turned their attention to contemporary issues, not just historic or classic coins, and the story of a coin that was produced only a few years ago, yet already commands a seven-figure price, captures the imagination of both seasoned numismatists and new collectors looking for a high-value, high-interest piece. The market for era coins is driven not only by rarity but also by demand, and the 2017 D penny exemplifies this perfectly, as auction houses, dealers, and private collectors compete to acquire these unique examples, sometimes paying more than $1.97 million depending on the severity, combination of errors, and overall condition of the coin. Grading also plays a crucial role in establishing the coin's value, with professional services such as PCGS and NGC evaluating the coin's state of preservation, strike quality, and prominence of errors. A coin that is graded at the highest levels of preservation with its errors intact can command astronomical prices, and even minor differences in grade can result in significant price variations. Beyond the doubling, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and die cracks, some coins also exhibit variations in planchet quality, including lamination flaws, improper alloy composition, or unusual surface textures, all of which can contribute to a coin's uniqueness and desirability. Collectors prize these anomalies because they are tangible evidence of the coin's journey through the minting process and offer a story that standard, perfectly struck coins cannot tell. In addition, provenance can further enhance a coin's value, as coins that are documented, photographed, and traced through reputable collections often achieve higher prices. The 2017 D penny has appeared in several high-profile auctions and private sales, where bidding wars have driven prices into the multi-million-dollar range, illustrating just how much collectors are willing to pay for coins with these remarkable features. The psychology behind collecting such era coins also contributes to their value, as owning a coin like the 2017 D1 cent represents a form of numismatic prestige, a demonstration of skill, knowledge, and fortune in finding a coin that is not only rare but also has a fascinating story embedded in its imperfections. For investors, these coins represent tangible, appreciating assets, as the market for rare era coins has shown steady growth over the years, with notable sales setting record prices and establishing benchmarks for similar coins. The combination of rarity, demand, grading, provenance, and visual appeal all coalesce to justify the extraordinary price tag of nearly $2 million for a 2017 D1 cent, and the excitement surrounding this coin is amplified by the fact that each era coin is effectively one of a kind. No two doubled dies, repunchment marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, or lamination flaws are ever identical, making the ownership of such a coin an unparalleled experience in the world of numismatics. Furthermore, the technological advancements in coin grading and authentication have made it easier for collectors to identify genuine era coins and verify their legitimacy, reducing the risk of purchasing counterfeit or altered coins, which further stabilizes and enhances their market value. Another aspect worth mentioning is the interplay between condition rarity and eye appeal, as coins that combine multiple significant errors with exceptional visual impact tend to command premiums far beyond what one might expect based purely on mintage or technical rarity. In other words, a coin that is visually striking, with prominent doubling or an extreme off-center strike, can become iconic within the collecting community, elevating its value even further. Some collectors are particularly drawn to era coins from the 2017 series because they represent a modern snapshot of minting techniques and challenges, showing how even in an era of advanced machinery and quality control, human and mechanical errors still occur. This blend of modern production and historical significance makes the 2017 D penny a compelling addition to any serious collection. In addition, there are intriguing stories and rumors surrounding the coin, including reports of accidental discoveries in circulation, collectors finding these coins in rolls of pennies, and the subsequent authentication and grading process that revealed their extraordinary value. These narratives add a layer of mystique and drama, enhancing the coin's allure and making it an object of fascination beyond its mere monetary worth. Experts also note that the value of the 2017 D1 cent can fluctuate based on market trends, auction dynamics, and collector sentiment, but the long-term trajectory has consistently shown appreciation for high-grade era coins, with multi-million-dollar sales serving as proof of the sustained demand. Importantly, the study of these coins contributes to a broader understanding of minting errors, die life, and quality control, as researchers and numismatists analyze each coin to document the specific characteristics and anomalies, building a comprehensive catalog of modern error types that informs collectors, dealers, and enthusiasts alike. Another fascinating dimension is the possibility of combination errors, where a single coin exhibits multiple types of anomalies, such as a doubled die combined with an off-center strike or a repunchment mark with die cracks. These combination errors are exceptionally rare and command prices that far exceed single error coins. Emphasizing the interplay between uniqueness and value, collectors often compete intensely for such coins, recognizing that each one is a finite, irreplaceable artifact of minting history. While some may assume that a coin from 2017 could not be valuable due to its recency,